Okay, here we go. So I'm going to be giving my account and some things that I learned about this whole situation. Just a quick introduction to what happened. Night cross country, lost my engine. Okay, do I have any instructors in here? Yeah, there's probably a lot. I know there's a couple of them right there. Losing an engine at night, it's something that's hard to simulate, especially going all the way to the ground and having to really land the airplane. So all of that kind of accumulated, and I hope I can teach some of you guys who've been flying longer than I've been alive just something today. So I titled it What Now? Because in the ACS or in the PHAC or Airplane Flying Handbook, the chapter ends after you land the airplane, right? You do your checklist, you pitch for best glide, you talk on the radio, mayday, mayday, and then that's it. So I'm going to give my story about kind of what happened and hopefully go through a little bit of something here. About me, so I've been to CFI for 3 years, a little over 900 hours dual given, so not the most time out of anybody here, but a little bit. I got my bachelor degree in aerospace administration operation with a focus in professional pilot. It's the longest title for a bachelor's degree, but at Oklahoma State University. So actually, Lofty here was one of my professors, so it's kind of a full circle. Top left there is me and Bethany. It's my wife. She's going to help me change the slides today. But this story involves her. I've done instruction for quite a lot of people here at OPA, most notably Jim Gleason right there. And I was in the drum line over there at OSU, do music and all that sorts of stuff. And that's a little bit of my personality showing through. I don't even remember why I have the drum over my head, but it is what it is. Okay, go to the next one. So, if we don't have any pilots here, or if people need to be reminded, this is what it looks like when you fly at night, especially in rural Oklahoma, right? Now, maybe a little bit exaggerated with the picture there, but that's generally what you can see, and what you can see is really nothing, right? Okay, next one, please. So I try to put some statistics up because I wanted to know the facts of really how likely was it that I was going to have a fatal accident, get hurt, or come out of this okay, when really that's what the outcome was. So I pulled this up from our friends over at AOPA, and we have our general aviation accidents. This is in 2016. You can see a majority of these are pilot related, and there's 185 that are mechanical, and only 16 of those resulted in fatal accidents. So I try to dig even further. How does it split up into day and nighttime? Specifically VMC and IMC, which from a non-pilot's, VMC is when you can see, IMC is when you can't see, in the clouds or something like that. So you can see here that most accidents happening in the daytime, and that's probably because most of us do a lot of the training and stuff like that, general aviation flying in the day. And then nighttime VMC, you got about 82 accidents, and 21 of those are fatal. And I know 21 doesn't really sound like a whole lot, but that's not too far away from half of those accidents becoming fatal. So, next slide, please. I try to dig even further. Now this is specifically at night, okay? And we have the causes of these accidents. The second leading cause of the accidents is what they call here SCFPP, and I had to write this down because I couldn't remember what it said for, but it's system component failure, specifically in your power plant. So, you can see here the red, or I guess orange, being the fatal accidents, and the gray being the total accidents. And the loss of engine is really pretty low, even at night, whenever that event occurs. So, they put a little quote on there that says, examining fatal accidents shifts from second highest cause of accidents to the seventh highest cause. This is talking about engine failures. This shift proves that the power plant failures are largely survivable. Okay. Now, I put on there what makes that true. What's the difference between LOC, which is loss of control, and then when we lose an engine and something mechanically fails? Well, it's really how you handle it. An engine failure can quickly spiral into loss of control of the airplane, right? There's a lot of stuff to do. You're kind of freaking out. You lose situational awareness of your airspeed, your bank, and that can quickly turn into loss of control. So if you can handle this correctly and fly the airplane, we've all heard that, it's largely survivable. So I'm going to talk about the whole situation and set it up. So here's our route here. Now this was a night cross country from Sundance to Ponca City. I'm sure everybody in here, almost everybody, has done that route to Ponca City to get some Enrique's or something like that. So how does day and nighttime really change our flight planning? Because this is where this all started. So every Tuesday we have a safety meeting over there at Alto Flight Academy, and we talk about a lot of these topics. One of them being nighttime flying and engine out and how you deal with these things. The first thing I brought up here is altitude. Okay. Now, if you look in the POHs, we probably have some Cessna flyers here. Glide range ratio is about 9-to-1, and that equates to about 1.5 nautical miles per 1,000 feet of altitude. So, I have to dumb this stuff down because if I ask my mom over there, was I ever good at math? No, I'm terrible at math. So I kind of have to dumb this down, and I put it, and this is how I tell my students to make it more digestible. More altitude equals more options. It's more time in the air, it's more time to troubleshoot, and you can have a further glide distance, right? So it's a further distance we can go to have more options. Now, so we chose an altitude of about, I think it was 7,500 going up there, 65 coming back. Thinking, 65, that's plenty of altitude. I'll be fine. Probably could have chose a higher number, but. Now, of course, how are we going to navigate here to Ponca City? In the daytime, everybody gets direct entry into Ponca City, straight line. Now, that is okay, especially in the day, because if we lose our engine, there's a lot of fields out there. There's pretty much nothing until you get closer to Stillwater up into Ponca City. However, at night, you lose your engine, it's black. You don't know if you're landing in a forest, a nice open field, or somebody's house who turned off their lights. I don't know, something like that. So you just don't know. If you can't guarantee an outcome, it's hard to rely on something like that, right? That's not really good ADM. So, of course, what points and how can we navigate? And how easy is it to identify it at night? A tower looks the exact same as another tower at night, right? It's just one light. So, specifically, I like to teach my students navigate airport to airport. One, you can turn on the lights and know that, hey, that's the airport. You can look for beacons, things like that. Two, it gives you another option, right? If you have to divert for some reason, if you lose your engine, you know where you can go. An airport is the best place, right? You talk about best field when you're choosing or you're going through your checklist, right? Well, what's the best field? An airport. So I like to have my options and fly over airports along our route, especially at night. Now, specifically with nighttime flying, weather has its own hazards associated with it, right? In the daytime, marginal VFR is, I'd say maybe not marginal, but few, broken, things like that. It's not a big deal to maneuver around these clouds. However, clouds are hard to see at night, right? It kind of just looks black and all of a sudden you're in the cloud. So making sure you have adequate weather is very important. If on the previous slide, it was broken down into daytime or nighttime VMC and nighttime IMC. 100% of the accidents that occurred nighttime IMC were all fatal. So you got to kind of use some risk management here and check your weather. Now, I also put in here moonlight. When the sky is nice and clear and that moon is shining very bright, it actually lights up some of the ground for us and you can kind of see a little bit easier. However, if it's an overcast layer, even if it's very high, it makes it a lot darker, noticeably darker. Okay? Now, I put the last one here is NOTAMs. Pretty obvious, you got to check your NOTAMs. However, at night, it may be very important to know which runway you're going to land on and hope that it's open, right? Not all airports will have a nice light up X that you can see. It may just be painted on there. So, especially if you're going to have to use this for an emergency situation, landing on a closed runway may be just as hazardous as landing in a field. Okay? So, inoperative airport lights, it kind of ties into that. So, here's our route. We're going from this is Sundance to Guthrie. We're going to kind of track I-35 up to Perry Airport, and then hang a right and start our descent down to Ponca City. Now, I brief this with all my students before we go. And I go, there's 2 spots that will be tough if we lose our engine. In between Sundance and Guthrie, and in between Perry and Ponca City. Because we're going to be either in a climb or a descent. We're going to be kind of in a gray zone. Now, there's risks associated with flying. That's the name of the game. But we try our best to reduce that risk as much as we can. So this was a risk that I was willing to take because, hey, I've done this hundreds of times. Never happened to me, so we should be okay. So those were our 2 spots that we briefed. Now, other nighttime preparations. The equipment is another thing we talk about every Tuesday. And I've learned a lot from Hal here. And specifically, Hal walks in every flight, and he has a huge, I wouldn't say huge, but a big red backpack with a mag light about this long. And it doubles as a weapon and also something to light up when we need it. All right? So having a flashlight, having a headlamp. If we were to lose our electrical system, everything goes black, right? So it's going to be very hard to navigate and things like that. Cold weather clothes. Okay, I'll leave that one for the next. And also a phone charger. This will play into my story after. Now, weather. Winds. And I put specifically winds because our glide ratio, that's 1.5 miles per 1,000 feet. If you read the POH, that does not take into account winds, right? So if you have, like typically here in Oklahoma, 30 knot headwind, 25 knot headwind, that's going to considerably shrink that glide ratio, that glide distance, right? So, personal minimums with fuel. There are 2 unforgivable sins in aviation: landing gear up and running out of gas. I believe that if you run out of gas, it's very hard to live that up, right? That's kind of a sign of a little bit of negligence. So, making sure you have enough fuel. Now, what happens if you have to go around, you have to divert for whatever reasons? That 45 minutes at night may not be enough, or you may be running it a little bit closer than you really want to. So I like to keep an hour of fuel for my reserves. Okay, and then have a backup plan. I teach this kind of philosophy to my students, and it's accidents happen when you run out of options. I think we can kind of all agree with that. So I try to give myself as many options as I possibly can each phase of flight. Now, a Boy Scout said that he was scared to get in an airplane, and I'll tell him, I'm scared every time I get in an airplane, especially after this one. But you have to use that healthy fear, right, to make sure you're doing the right things and to keep yourself safe. So, it is okay to be scared, but we want to give ourselves a lot of options. So specifically, here's each exit strategy, as I call it, for each phase. Now, this event happened coming back from Ponca City. We did our pre-flights there at Sundance in the hangar. I had my flashlight. Everything looked good. Run-up checks looked good. We fly all the way to Ponca City. No anomalies noted. Everything's running like it should be. My student needs to go to the bathroom, so we land there. Pre-flight one more time, because I told them, hey, we're here. We might as well pre-flight again. Do another run-up just because it won't hurt. Everything looked stellar. Takeoff happened where it should. We were making power where we need it to be. So, this is where it happens. Now, at Ponca City, our exit strategy was this. If we didn't like anything, we were going to abort the takeoff, or we could turn back around to Ponca City, right? Now, as we moved closer to Perry, we know it's going to be straight ahead. So if we lost an engine or anything like that, we could go straight ahead, not change the course, and we should see the airport. Now, if we couldn't make Perry, we knew I-35 was going to be on our right within gliding range. So we were going to go there. Next thing would be Guthrie. Once we kind of started transitioning over back to the west to get back to Sundance, we knew we were going to have Guthrie. Past Guthrie, we should be able to get back to Sundance. So that's kind of our plan. And we know in aviation, plans don't always go the way they're supposed to. Now, this is a video, or can you pause that real quick? So I found a website where you can put in your ADSB track logs and it'll recreate a simulation of it. So what you're seeing here is it's not perfect, so our numbers aren't exactly right, but we're at our cruising altitude, 6,500, and we're starting to pick up speed because we had just reached cruise. Oh, it's okay, that's all right. I won't make you pause it. So our speed's right here, and that rapid rate of loss is when we initially lost the engine. Now you're going to see my nose moving all around. What's going on here is a little bit of pucker factor, okay? But also, this was me figuring out what is going on. It was a very loud noise in the cockpit that almost kind of deafened me for a second, had my ears ringing. And it was me looking at my student. What did you just do? Right? What did you just do, and what is going on? And I want to talk about this further, but it was an immediate, the propeller didn't stop. And usually if the engine fails, at least from what I've seen on YouTube, that prop will stop either 12 o'clock or stop spinning completely. And our propeller was continuing to run. So I didn't want to be the guy to land it in the field with a perfectly fine engine. So I was really confused on if we had full loss of power or complete loss. Now, that immediate right turn was because I knew I wasn't going to make I-30, or I wasn't going to make Perry. And so I asked Oak City Approach if they have anything within me and Perry, and they said I-35. So I said, okay, I can't confidently say I'm going to make Perry, so I'm going to try to turn towards the right. Now, at this point, I am descending. I am, 3,900 feet above the ground. So time is taken away, right? Usually if you're holding best glide, you got about 500 feet a minute of descent. So that kind of puts it into perspective. Now, as you see me turn here, right here, let me ask you guys this. What are some big spinning objects that are out there in western Oklahoma? Windmills. So as I'm turning and the airplane is starting to descend, all I see is big red lights underneath me, and now I'm going, oh crap. Well, I need to go 90 degrees towards I-35, but I cannot do that in case I descend down towards these windmills. So this is where I turn directly towards it, because now I know I'm clear of them. Can you fast forward just a little bit? So at this point right here, it is becoming clear to me I cannot make I-35 either. And this is the only time in an airplane where I had no idea what to do. I couldn't make I-35. I had no idea what was in front of me. The engine wasn't going to restart. I had no idea. But teaching philosophy is fly the airplane. No matter what, keep flying the airplane. So that's what I did. Held my best glide speed and just kept coming down. Now, you're going to see here when I turn pretty rapidly to the left. Let's keep going. I am 1,000 feet above the ground right now. So time is running out and I have to make a decision. What am I going to do? Really all I could say was put your seatbelt on, make sure it's tight. We're going to try our best to see what's going on. So about at this point, I see a car pass in front of me on a road I've never seen before, and I used its headlights to light up and see if that road was clear. I am 400 feet off the ground. I see that car and I follow it in, because now I know it's a paved road and I can go there. So I'm lining up with the road, and right here, this is a little blip on the GPS, which is a large tree. And my student goes, oh, there's a tree. So I kind of sidestep it to the right and thread the needle between huge power lines and big trees. Okay, so that's a kind of a depiction of the airspeed and how fast that really happened. Now, during it, it felt like it was an hour long. I had plenty of time, but looking back on it, if I didn't react quickly, things could have gone very sideways. Okay, can you go to the next slide, please?
You mentioned that doesn't reflect how dark it is out there.
Yes, and there should be another slide with the pictures. Okay, keep going to the right, go to the right. No, go back to where you were. I have pictures in just a second. So go one more. All right, so go. Okay, so my point of view, I've kind of talked through this and I'm trying to keep it pretty brief, but the moment of power loss. What it felt like was I had gotten almost thrown forward in the seat a little bit. I heard a loud bang, which was, we've all backfired the engine starting the engine before, I know we have. But it was a loud backfire and a noise that kind of pierced my ears. So in class, we've talked about startle factor. There was a period, I feel like it was 5 minutes, but it was only about 30 seconds where I had to figure out what just happened. Did we hit a bird? Did we hit another airplane? What is going on? Now, once I kind of figured out, okay, something is wrong, was it a partial power loss or a total power loss? Like I said, the prop kept spinning, so it was throwing me for a loop. Meanwhile, as all this is happening, we're decreasing descent. All right, so what speed do I hold? A lot of people will tell me best glide speed. Okay, best glide speed. Now, Reed, does best glide speed change? It can, right? And it changes based off of weight. So how do I know what best glide speed is during that moment? My mom just told you I'm really bad at math, so I'm not doing all of the math in my head when an airplane is coming down. So what we've learned in one of our Tuesday meetings was take the trim wheel and throw it all the way up, right? That allowed me to kind of relieve control pressure a little bit and focus inside to try to get this thing restarted. So, where do we go? Okay, airspeed, check. B's best field, now where do we go? Okay, Perry, I had my student, so my student was 16 years old, and he had just done his first solo, and he's not the most experienced pilot, right? But he's a part of my crew. So, I told him, get the frequency for Perry and turn the lights on, because we can't see the airport because the lights are off. So as he's doing that, I'm talking to Kansas City Center and doing that whole thing, and I realized when those lights came up on the glare shield, we're not making Perry. Okay, well, can we turn back around and go to Ponca City? Off of the edge of runway 35, there's oil tanks, right? Those big oil tanks. Right. Now, I don't want to be short and hit those oil tanks. That wouldn't be good. So, this was also at the point where we were too far away from Ponca City, and we were too far away from Perry, so we had nothing. All right. Now, can we actually make it? Like I said, the glide range, 1.5 miles per 1,000 feet. That's great. However, it doesn't take into effect wind, right? So I'm not going to sit there and do math because I'm not good at math. I'm already scared. I'm shaking a little bit. So I just use the rule, and this is what I teach, 1-to-1. 1,000 feet of altitude, a mile of glide distance. That might not be perfect, but that can give you in a pinch whether you should try to make it or try something else. I knew I wasn't going to make either one of those airports. So now, during the descent, troubleshoot. I am continuously trying different things, anything that I can think of as I'm descending. Now, it got to a point where it wasn't coming back on and I needed to focus on the airplane. Okay, now I'm thinking about obstacles. We talked about the windmills, and I'm quickly running out of options. I have no idea what to do. All right, that is when I spotted the car driving. The only car, it seemed like, in Oklahoma that was driving that night, and it lit up a nice road in front of me. Now, with that, I was looking for a couple things. Obstacles, like power lines, because usually power lines are coupled with the road, and large trees. Also, overpasses, street signs, anything. At that point, I was pretty desperate, so I was going for that road. All right? So, next one. That was kind of my point of view. Now, the title of this was, What Now? So here are some pictures. This is lit up with a car's headlights, but it was very dark out there. And when we pulled off and actually got out of the airplane, you could hear coyotes howl. It was freezing out there, and it was pitch black. So, lo and behold, we get out of the airplane. We actually had an OSU aircraft circling us at the time. I think it was OSU-846, I don't know. But they were able to relay messages for us to Kansas City Center and let them know that we're okay, there's no fire, the airplane's completely fine. So we get out of the airplane, and it threw me for a loop because I didn't see any oil on the airplane. I didn't see any visible mechanical damage. So now I'm scared. I'm going, now what did I do? Did I run out of gas? So I jump up on the wings, I check my gas. No, 30 gallons, okay, that's fine. So I have no idea what's going on with this airplane. And soon after that, we see a car way off in the distance coming down the road fast. And my wing is sticking out halfway in the intersection, or halfway in the road. So I'm going, okay, this is just my luck. I'm going to land perfectly and have my students safe, and somebody's going to hit the airplane and catch on fire. So now I'm going, okay. Well, my student at the time had his flashlight, and I didn't have my headlamp because I was using it to work on my car the day before, but he had one, so I was like, okay. And he pulled out, I told him, get your flashlight out and try to flag down the car to stop. Well, his flashlight had a little strobe function like this, and when he showed it to me, I was like, that's dumb because you're going to blind yourself with that strobe light. There's not even a red light on it. But this actually kind of could have saved some lives there. So he pulled out his flashlight, flagged the car down. This is part of what now. The guy gets out the car and he goes, boys, the airport's over there. Why are you over here? I said, yes, sir, I know. I need your phone to get into contact with somebody. Immediately after I got out of the airplane, I texted Bethany, my wife, of 2 weeks, by the way, at that point. And I just texted her, I'm alive, I'm okay, phone died. Oh, great, okay. Well, I don't have her number memorized. I don't have Hal's number memorized either. And I'm going, oh, I got 911 memorized. I guess I can do that. So, talk about phones later, but they come down and they're like, what do you want to do? I was like, well, let's call the police. So we get the police down there. It's Perry Police Department. They come down there and they're looking at me. They go, hey, the airport's over there. I said, yes, I know the airport's over there, okay? He said, well, what do we do? What are you asking me? I don't know what to do. And I said, well, we should probably shut the road down. He goes, okay, well, that's going to be Highway Patrol's jurisdiction. I said, well, let's go ahead and call them and get them down here then. So they came down there. At this time, Hal was ferrying an airplane from Sundance to California with Grace, and I couldn't get a hold of Hal for a little bit. I eventually did, and when I got a hold of Hal, he said, I'm calling PT.
Yeah.
So, my OPA brother over here and his dad, where'd he go?
He snuck out.
Okay, he snuck out. He came up there with the tow bar and to help kind of get the airplane out of the road. Right? Now, I find this funny because, can you go to the next slide? Before I even landed, I had another OPA member text me. Craig. Craig was the first person to text me to figure out, hey, are you okay? And at that point, I was okay, but I didn't know what to do next. So, my cell phone's dead, I'm freezing, I don't know where I am, I don't even know what to do. Now, here's what I learned. Flashlights. I encourage everybody here to at least carry some sort of flashlight with you. It may be used in a different way than you think, but this tool really helped me and helped keep everybody safe. Okay? Extra clothes. I was in a t-shirt, shorts, and by the time it was 11 o'clock, it was like 40 degrees outside and I was freezing. So, usually, what I do keep though, is is an extra pair of underwear. And that's another thing everybody kept asking me, hey, you need a change of underwear? I said, no, I'm okay. I got my own. I'm good. All right? Battery pack. It's not a bad idea to keep some sort of extra battery with you for your phone or something like that, because communication is key. Right? Now, how do you communicate with the police? I can't tell you how to do it everywhere else, but I'll tell you what I did. I told them, let's shut down the road, and we're probably going to need a police escort to get this airplane off this road back to Perry Airport. Okay. Now, when Highway Patrol got there, he looked at me and he goes, okay, what do we do now? I said, all right, my guy PT's coming. He's going to come tow this airplane. We'll need a police escort. But he goes, okay, I'm going to call my captain, my chief, and see if we have any procedures. He comes back to me and he goes, well, he told me he's worked only a couple of these and they all died. So they don't really know. They don't know what to do after they survive. I said, okay, all right, thanks, appreciate it.
They said that to me.
Now I bring up social media and the news because that's the next thing. Your phone starts blowing up with everybody asking you, are you okay? And then you got KOCO calling you, asking for a statement. I'm like, dude, I gotta get this airplane off. So, what to say and what not to say. Try not to incriminate yourself. The news outlet ran with the headline, student pilot lands airplane at night with instructor on board. Or something, engine failure. And I'm going, guys, that's illegal, okay? I have to take controls if something like that happens. So the news can spin things and almost incriminate yourself. So be careful what you tell them. Have a statement ready. Luckily, we did have a statement ready. So that was good. But now I talk about the good and bad of social media. It can be a bad thing, but it often can be a great networking tool. Specifically, Airplanes and Coffee. I don't know if you're familiar with that page, but on FlightAware, when somebody squawks 7700, it sends a notification to everybody on FlightAware and says, hey, look, this airplane's having a problem. Well, I was posted on Airplanes and Coffee before I even landed, and everybody already knew about it. Right? So after I sent that text to Bethany, she called one of my friends who's a previous instructor at Alto and asked him, hey, take a look at this. Is everything okay? And he goes, I'm going to come get you and we're going to go there because he has crashed. So, okay. So they were able to pinpoint my location without me even getting in contact with them, which can be critical, right? If somebody was hurt and we needed attention, or if I was hurt and I couldn't get anybody, we need rescue immediately. All right. Now, the other thing I learned is I teach this all the time. It is not if, it's when. And I'm sure we've all heard that. Okay. Like I said, I'm 900 hours into instructing. This never happened to me before. We teach about it. I know it can happen, but it's pretty unlikely. Well, lo and behold, that's when it happened. And that is when everything I've ever learned and have been teaching got put to the test. Okay. So training mentality. You should go into training and teach your students this. It's not if, it's when, okay? It will happen to you if you fly long enough. Something will happen to you. Probably multiple times, but, all right? Then proficiency. We've all been tested. What's the difference between proficiency and currency? However, the way I teach it is being proficient at something is doing something like a pro. Like handling an emergency situation like a true professional, right? Not freaking out, knowing what to do, knowing your airplane, and try and continuously flying it, okay? And the last thing I learned is have a group of people ready, right? Who can you call? Who is watching you and even cares that you're flying, right? Luckily, most of our flights are being tracked, so they know where we're going, what we're doing, what our route is, right? Maybe filing a flight plan or something like that. But have somebody who at least knows you're flying that night. Now, how do we get the airplane off the road? So this is the story of how we got the airplane off the road. Yep, we're coming. This is the end. So, how do we get the airplane off the road? Highway Patrol comes there. We hook the airplane up to a tow bar, and we're pulling it down the road. They have to hook up street signs to a chain and rip them off the ground as we're coming down the road. All right, we're 7 miles from the airport, moving 7 miles an hour. So it took us an hour to get all the way down there. Now, what was actually the culprit was this little gear right here. This turns the camshaft, and it decided that night to just explode. So it may not be something you do, right? We can do everything we can to be safe and to be right and to be proficient, but something will happen, and it's not if, it's when. All right. So that's it. This is a picture of my group that came and supported me and came out there and found me. And then I just put this funny picture of me and Jim because I thought it was funny. So that's all I have. So thank you guys.